We are live once again on Proline TV for the Playbook ATS podcast. I'm Greg DePalma, sitting in at least for the next couple of minutes for host Mark Lawrence, who will be with us shortly. Jim Feist, Andy Isco, joining us here on Christmas. What do you call the day after Christmas?
The day after Christmas.
Oh, that's lame. They should come up with something a little bit more creative than that.
Gift wrap trash day.
Okay, that might work.
Okay, Andy's right on top of it.
Yes,
A little bit long. Yes.
Yes. So
Or,
thanks for.
Or the other one could be, ooh, I forgot the batteries day.
That may not work as easily, but it's not bad. It's better than the day after Christmas Day. How's it going, Mark?
Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry I'm running late. The game started already.
What's happening, Mark?
Not too much, Jim. Are you cruising?
I just came out of a meeting, so I'm sitting in my car.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, he didn't tell his wife that he was going to go do the show. He just said he was going to go out and get something to eat, and so he snuck this video.
That's a man with a passion. I tell you that. Okay.
Man with a plan.
Is the heater on or the air conditioner, Jim, in your car? Which one?
Actually, I have all the windows open in the car because it's really nice today.
Nice. Beautiful.
Matter of fact, it says it's 68 degrees.
Ooh, real nice.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
This weather is ridiculous that we're getting.
Oh, we had a bunch of rain and dark clouds beginning, I think, about Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, the other day it was like
had
more rain than we've ever had.
Yeah. Yesterday was really nice.
Yes, it was.
Came as a surprise.
We're not getting a lot of sunshine, but it's the temperature.
We did yesterday. But
yes, yesterday we did. Yeah.
Did you like the thumbnail for the show, Mark?
The thumbnail for the show. I don't know about the thumbnail for the show.
Well, here's the thumbnail for the show. So this is your AI photo. Well, this is your AI image, and this is what it looks like.
Oh, nice.
So there's
is it actually moving?
No, it's not moving. That would be, you need to up your medicine a little bit, but
that's just my eyes that are moving, huh? Okay.
or lower it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I like about this the most? Mark looks really good, but I have hair again.
Those were the days.
That's right. I think I have a little bit more in the photo than I do in real life.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess I could update it and say, the three of us, receding hairlines for DePalma, Feist, and Isco.
Yeah.
After hair transplants.
There we go.
Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, receding hairline reversal.
Nice.
So week 17's already begun, Mark, in the NFL, and the playoff picture is already starting to take shape with Denver and their win, and Detroit's loss is completely imploding down the stretch.
That was about the ugliest performance I can recall outside of Raider games this year.
What do you think happened to Detroit this year? I mean, I know we lost the coordinators, we lost the center, but I mean, is Dan Campbell really a fraud? And the only reason they won is because of those coordinators?
Because of the talent they had?
Glenn, yeah.
Well, that had to be something that they had to consider. I mean, that whether or not they should have just went with Ben Johnson as the head coach and just said adios to Dan Campbell. But
it's hard to get rid of Campbell with the record that he's had. Even he's had it wasn't that many years ago. Remember his first year, he took over a lousy team and they lost the first 10 games, and then they ended up with like 6-10-1 or something like that, and then improved after that. But some of his decisions continue to baffle a lot of people who have watched the situation. I mean, okay, you start first and goal from the 4-yard line. You miss it the first 3 times. Oh, well, the 4th time's the charm. I don't think it quite works that way. How about just taking the field goal, virtual certainty from that distance, and put it on the board? I think we talked about it last week, the game against Pittsburgh. Now, we don't know how the game would have unfolded, but it turned out that at the end when they were needing to score a touchdown, they would have been down possibly by 2 instead of 5. I mean, we don't know how the rest of the game would have happened because it was the first quarter when they eschewed the field goal and went for it on fourth down. But he's done that way too often. He should have learned it from the 0 for 5 against the Eagles. But and especially in a game like where your season is basically on the line.
Well, I didn't see it coming from the stats, at least. When they began the football season, they started out pretty nice to the break. What they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2. Won the yards in 5 of those 7 games. But then after the break, they came back. What was strange is they lost 2 of their 3 games, but were beat in the yards every game. And here came the implosion from that point after. They gave up 500 yards in 2 football games after the break. And that's kind of not like the Detroit Lions.
I don't know if you keep track of this data, because I always talk about yards per play and total yards. Do you keep statistics on yards gained by interception or fumble returns, kick returns, or punt returns?
No.
To the extent that those often are not included, or not that you might otherwise gain a game, you had the possession of the ball.
I keep statistics like the NFL keeps statistics in what they call their game book. And the NFL doesn't award yards for interception or kickoff returns. So neither do we in the database. So it just
I think they do show them as separate I think they show them in separate categories, return yards, but it's not included in their total yards. You're correct. Total yards in the NFL game book is rushing yards, passing yards, and the yards lost due to quarterback sacks.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we formalize it in the midweek. We'll take what we call a rescore in every game, and that's to take those yards and then tie turnovers into them. Turnovers have an equivalent of so many yards, and you net the turnovers out. You either add or subtract those yards, and that you then have a rescore of the football games.
What do you use for the yards?
Those are nice indicators. I'm sorry.
I think I got cut off a little bit there. Were you saying how many yards you add or subtract due to net turnovers when you do the rescore?
It's programmed into the computer or into the database, and I don't know exactly for sure how many. My buddy Tony, TD Tony, well, Andy,
right?
Jim, you know him. He's the guy that does all the rescore stuff. Okay. I just tell him, tell me what the number is. Tell me what the number is. That's all. However they get there, they get there. But there's some
like
teams.
Me, you create a formula, and after you've used it for 10 or 15 years, you can check it out, but you don't remember the formula, but you knew that it was worked and it made sense at the time, and it probably holds true today.
Yeah, and 15 years later, it's 15 years later today when I'm 77, as opposed to 15 years later, 20 years ago when I was 57. So the memory's not quite there.
Well, it's because I find myself doing that. I remember this is a great formula, but I can't remember exactly how I weighted it, and it's been working well. So I need to go back and undo the formula or find the original formula, and then I can get the answer. Because I would say that a turnover might be worth anywhere from 20 to 30 yards per game, because sometimes you get a turnover.
I think Tony said the number was like 15 or 18 is what I think he said. But I just try and keep it simple, keep it simple, stupid. I don't want to get into metrics and get into everything that everybody, all these analysts and these number crunchers do, and they get down to how many yards the quarterback averages, his passes are in the air, and crap like that. That's just overanalyzation.
I do a podcast with someone who relies a lot on analytics, including DVOA and EPA.
Yes.
And I keep asking, what are the ingredients of that formula to see if it makes any sense? Because some of the rankings they come up don't seem to make sense as far as where the traditional and even some of the secondary statistics put those teams. And nobody's been able to give me an example or the formula. And I'm not trying to learn anything or sneak it. I just want to know, it's like, for example, it could be the NFL's quarterback rating system. It comes out to like 152 or whatever it is for a perfect rating. And I think they do share that formula. It's a nice formula, but it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And there's too many perfect ratings that occur throughout the course of a week. In Major League Baseball, you get 1 or 2 perfect games. Not perfect, no hitters, let alone a perfect game.
Yeah.
The National League needs to retool that. Jim, I was talking with Sean Hess today, by the way. He said to tell you hello.
Sean Hess. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
He's still down in Florida, right? Going strong down in Florida?
He's down in Florida now. He was living in Vegas. He said he did some work with Jim in the past. And he said to make sure that he says, I tell you hello, he's thinking about you. And he worked with the people at what they call Killer Sports, who have that database that they have, which is pretty powerful. Okay.
That was the Myers brothers?
Myers brothers, right. And they sold it. They sold it about 18 months ago.
StatFox?
Well, it wasn't StatFox that bought them. They were sort of like independently different. They had their own, they do what they, in language that they call SDQL, Sports Data Query Language. Right.
SDQL, right.
And, they really can get down deep in the stuff as far as ATS results go. They don't get into the analytics like Andy was just talking about. They can really fine tune and get into the ATS results. They can get into games in quarters, break quarters down, what teams do in the third quarter after being 9 points over their norm, how they do in the fourth quarter and things like that. Mm-hmm. That's what they can do. But it's a pretty powerful database they have. And the Meyer brothers, by the way, sold that. And today, as I understand, they don't get along at all, the Meyer brothers.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
The two brothers,
tell Sean I said hello. I haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah, please do the same for me, Mark.
I will do that, Andy. He's quite a character.
He's got to be up in his upper 80s now.
I think he's 86 and as sharp as a tack.
And he's still dating 20-year-olds.
Yes, he is. And he'll let you know that, okay?
And he does look about 15 years younger than he actually is.
He's in the retirement home, Jim.
Sean is very consistent. When he was 20, he dated 20-year-olds. Now he's 80, he's still dating 20-year-olds. He hasn't changed.
Exactly. But he's the stud of the nursing home, okay? So
absolutely. I always knew he would be.
So he loves where he is right now.
What time do you have to leave, Jim?
Sean's big.
What part of Florida is he in?
He's over by Sarasota on the West Coast.
Okay.
Right.
How much time do you have, Jim?
Sean
just keep going. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean is the king of divisional dogs in the NFL, if you remember, Mark.
Yeah, and I don't. For all the while that I've known Sean, I always know him as a trend guy, and as a trend handicapper, love the trends. Yes. Yeah. And I don't know what he does today. I don't know what his formula is and how he does his things, but he made a pretty nice living for himself. He had a good feel for the game, and however it is, people do what it is they do.
Giants fan, as I recall.
As long as they're successful. Whatever their mojo is, or their rhythm, or their pattern, or their formula, I don't ever second guess that, because if it works, it works.
Well, would you call yourself, Mark, a trend guy?
Yeah.
Would I call myself a trend guy?
Yeah.
No. Well, everybody thinks that I am, but no. But trends to a degree, Jim, and a trend is very simply something that happens to a team, and a system is something that happens to the league. Okay. So if I tell you that so-and-so is 15-3 as a dog of 7 or more off 3 losses in a row, that's a trend. But if I tell you that the league is this number as a dog off 3 losses in a row, that's a system, because it applies to all teams. Okay. And that's the motivation for me, is things that are systems and not trends.
What do you do when you have?
Isn't that the one that's in the newsletter in that page 2 box?
What do you do, Mark? You have current form that opposes either one of those trends or systems.
Well, and that's a great question too, because instead of just, nobody is one of anything. And I know, Jim, you have a real good feel for the game. You have a lot of contacts. So you have a good feel of how it is you gather your information. I'm doing things technically from a systems point of view, because my database is what that does. But I'm also really knee deep into statistical handicapping. How teams do, winning the yards, losing the yards, yards per, those types of things. So when I find things that are statistically strong, but a trend goes against it, not a trend, biting the words I just said. When the system goes against it, and I've got something statistically the other way, it's awfully hard to do. But I have to just let the thing go. I don't.
So you do. I mean, hear you talking about winning in the stats, which is current form.
Yes.
And then you talk about the system. So if they go against each other, you just say, well, maybe I better pass this.
Yeah, you're right. Because if I have a team that is coming up in the system, out of the system book, and it's 18-3, and I got to play on this week, but it happens to be the Tampa Bay Bucks, who is just choking their ass off in the stats, I don't want any Tampa Bay. So in that case, I use the statistics to keep me out of the game, is what I do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Mark, when you do the thing in the newsletter, what you're talking about, like the system thing, that's the thing that's on the bottom of page 2 in the newsletter, next to their trivia teaser.
Yes, those are, the awesome angle in the newsletter is out of the database. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are systems, right?
Yeah. In other words, play against a favorite that is coming off two straight wins and was out, or play against a favorite that's coming off 2 straight wins but was outgained in his last 2 games, and then you say since 1980, that situation, which is the same as system, that situation is 2-17 against the spread.
Correct. And just like this week's newsletter,
that's a system or a situation. Yeah.
The awesome angle in this week's newsletter applies. This is a little bit down the road. I was just telling you, Jim. What you do is you play against any NFL team that won their last 3 games in a row, all as underdogs, and now they're going to dress up as a favorite.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now that's a system. Okay. Now how do they handle that change? They don't handle it real well. You wouldn't expect they wouldn't. Okay.
And most of them don't actually.
No, they don't. And
like the Panthers, for example, they almost never win as a favorite, but as a dog this year, I think every game they've won, they were an underdog.
Yes. Now
that's a reaction by both the team and the lines maker, because the team's coming off success as an
what Jim
underdog.
mentioned, the Panthers, that's drifting into the trend part of it. The Panthers being the trend, the team, the trendy team, right? But the angle in the newsletter this week about what I described about winning 3 times as an underdog, now coming favorite, applies to the league. Okay.
Yeah. And that team is playing tomorrow.
That team is playing tomorrow, and it's the LA Chargers who won their last 3 straight up as an underdog, and now they're going to be laying points, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to do everything logically, keep it simple, and if it's not logical, it's not worth wasting your time and wasting your money on, for sure.
It just shows you that, I mean, most of the people that are on the show at Dom DeMarco's are going by, or some of them are just feel handicappers.
Yes.
But what makes them, first of all, what makes them different is they're big winners and they bet substantial, really substantial money, way above the average person. But they all look at things differently.
Yes.
It's kind of amazing because you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, this guy wins, but he looks at it differently. And this guy wins and he looks at it differently. And the third guy looks at it differently and say, holy shit, which way is the best way? Maybe they're all good if you can really narrow it down. I was going to say, part of it also is their selectivity. They don't have to play. I was just going to say, being very 5, selective. 6 games. Yeah. I mean, they're not betting 14, 15 games a week.
Right.
They're picking up like 2-3 games. Kind of like your newsletter, Mark. You're picking out your three best games.
Best bets, exactly.
Right.
The 3 best in the underdog play, yeah.
Right. So you
hope to hit 3 out of the 4, but you don't know which 3 they're going to be.
So
you hit 3 out of 4, it doesn't matter.
You just have to put them out there and don't try and pull the right rabbit out of the hat. That's all.
Well, like a week like this, where there's only really 2 games that have playoff implications as far as who's getting in or not, but there's a lot of seeding implications.
Yes, there is.
These are, to me, these are very difficult games to handicap, because sometimes these guys, the players, when I say these guys, the players are not motivated much by the seeding. Well, they should be, but they don't seem to be. But of course, the players they are motivated to get into the playoffs. That's understandable. But if they already know they're in the playoffs, they don't get as hyped up. Now, I can't explain what happened to the Detroit Lions. I have no idea what's going on there. Yesterday, they should have been highly motivated, and obviously they never showed up. But somebody must have an answer to that, but I'm not smart enough to know what that answer is.
Yeah, I mean, they had major revenge in the game, Jim. I think they were almost a double-digit favorite when they lost to Minnesota the first time.
Right.
And if you look, yeah, they were. So there's no rhyme or reason or no excuse, I should say, for how they performed. It's now the 6 turnovers obviously buried them and did them in. If you reverse
that's lack of concentration at state education.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Andy, and that's what you get when you have a team that's not focused for the game.
Right.
And I think
they
what
greatly
happened
underachieved this year, and I think that they realized, yeah, mathematically we got a chance, but it's probably 0.5% because they need to win their last 2 games, but more importantly, they need Green Bay to lose both games also.
Ironically, they didn't have a turnover in any of their 4 previous games. So, this came out of the blue in that sense, but that's a good point Greg brings out, that they weren't focused.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh game, we've seen this recently. When the Bengals lost to the Bills, Burrow comes out that week, even though they were still in it, and we all know what he said and what happened in the game, they didn't show up. Yep. The Dallas Cowboys lost after they had the winning streak. They lost to Detroit. What they do at the next week, they didn't show up because they knew that was it. It was over. And even though they were still in it, they knew it was over. And so this is a pattern. The Miami Dolphins, look what happened to them. They lose to Pittsburgh after the winning streak. They didn't show up against Cincinnati. So this is the time of the season. These guys are worn down. And like Detroit, you got a team that has been worn down by injuries for the past 2 years. And it gets to them. It has to get to them where they just every week we have to try to win this game and we have to do it. We are undermanned and we're fighting. And sooner or later, you just can't keep fighting. Sooner or later, it's just, and I don't blame them for it. It's just the way that it is. And then Jim brought up the great point is you throw out Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn and all that catches up to you.
Let me ask you guys this question here. The biggest fall of the season this year has been the Kansas City Chiefs. And my question to you is this. They were involved in how many was it? Close call games last year.
And they won 12 or 13.
And they won them all. Unbelievable. Now, is it the return to the norm, the average coming back the next year that bites them? Or is it the Super Bowl loser jinx that bites them? Because they flat out simply didn't play this year. They're eliminated here, obviously. Now they're without Mahomes and they're like a sunken ship. So what did Kansas City in this year? Was it the return to the norm from the close call games that they won them all last year and they couldn't win any this year? Or did the Super Bowl jinx bite them?
Well, I don't know if it's a Super Bowl jinx, but given all the postseason games that they've played since like 2018, 2019, is the equivalent of an extra season and a quarter in that period of time, 21, 22 games, something along those lines. That and the age of the roster, so many key players getting old, I think also took a toll. And I also wonder how much of it had to do with the blowout that they suffered in the Super Bowl, which the Philadelphia one was not a surprise or a shock. The way they won, or the way that Kansas City was unable to do anything in that game, I think was a major shock. And I just think that maybe it did 2 things. It gave other teams a little bit of a blueprint of what succeeded in that one game, but it was the most important game of the year, but also allowed other teams to realize, hey, we don't have to fear the Kansas City Chiefs. They are not the same team that they were, and Philadelphia, I won't say exposed it. Philadelphia took advantage of it.
I think Andy's right in many ways, what he said, but you also may have a hunger problem.
That's exactly right, Jim.
Maybe after 9 consecutive division winners and being in 5 or 6 Super Bowls, it just got to be, they just weren't hungry. And maybe the practices weren't as intense. Maybe the motivation wasn't. And you got to remember too, they're all become very wealthy over the last decade with all the extra commercials and Taylor Swift and the whole thing. Maybe the belly got too full.
That could well be. I think they were really, really oversatisfied in that sense. And when I alluded to Super Bowl losers, I really, truly believe that works. Not because the database kicks it out and gives me these numbers. I believe in the theory or the thought behind that, in that a team the next year who scratched and clawed their way to the Super Bowl and fought their guts out to get there and doesn't get there, it's almost impossible to play that same level the next year.
And they are the target of every opponent that they face.
Absolutely.
In that conference, especially.
Even the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl, did not play well this year. I mean, I know they won their division, and people can poo-poo that, but we saw their performance on the playing field here. It wasn't anywhere close to what it was in the Super Bowl last year. No.
The thing about the Eagles, that they might actually be getting better.
I agree 100%.
That there's something about their last couple of games that's, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but there's something different about the way they're playing, and they're still dangerous. They're not a team that you can take lightly. They got a great defensive line, and their offensive line is strong, and they got some strong players. I mean, that is not a bad roster.
No, at all.
They're still a very dangerous team.
Have you heard anything, Jim, in Vegas from your guys about the Eagles situation this week? Are they now, since they clinched the division, satisfied and will be resting regulars the last 2 weeks? Or will they come and play this week and then rest them perhaps the last week?
I have not heard anything, but what motivation do they have?
Well, other than momentum, which they desperately were in need of, and they built that somewhat the last 2 games. I'm sure that Sirianni would tell these guys, "Hey, we want to go into the Super Bowl here in the playoffs.
The way we went in last year.
Let's get a little momentum. Let's get a roll here going here." So somebody mentioned that to me today. Why would you want to bet the Eagles this week? And they're going to probably sit everybody. And I asked Howard Eskin, my good friend in Philadelphia, the radio commentator, and he said, as far as he knows and what he's heard, that's exactly their thinking there, is they want to continue this momentum, and then if need be, they'll rest regulars the final week of the season.
I want to see what they do with Lane Johnson and Carter on defense, because they've been sort of close to playing the last couple of weeks, and there was some talk that that Johnson might be back this week. We don't know about Carter, but it would be interesting to see what their approach is as far as those 2 players go. They're going to have to. They cannot get the number 1 seed. They've been mathematically eliminated from that, which means they're going to be playing on wild card weekend. They'll be playing a home game, whether they'll be seeded 3rd or 4th. Well, I'd probably be 3rd because they have too many wins for Tampa Bay or Carolina to catch them. I don't know that they can finish number 2, but nonetheless, it would make sense, at least from a preparation and health standpoint, for the Eagles to play their players against Buffalo, depending upon the weather and the climate, etc. there, and rest them next week. If you rest them this week, I don't know why you would want to play them next week, but rather if they play them this week, because if they don't play this week and next week, you could have rust set in because they'll be off, a total of 3 weeks between their last game that the starters played last week and January 10th, 11th, 12th, which is the first round of the playoffs. So if I'm the Eagles, barring injuries that just aren't coming along, I would play the starters this week, rest them next week, let everybody get it. Even this week, don't play the ones that were still not 100%, so they don't get that rust, because then they'll have basically a regular bye of just 1 week between games as opposed to 2.
I think Andy's spot on with his observation of that, with this game being Buffalo, and it would likely then be played with playoff intensity, which is what Nick Sirianni wants his team to be ready for. They're going to close out with Washington. That's the game to rest the regulars. Washington, especially if they don't have any need for the game. But I'm sure they're going to come up against Buffalo. I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
You know what this sounds like? If you
What's that?
Go back to August, it sounds like we're talking about a preseason game.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is what you were talking about, though, Jim, and that's what I agree upon, is these players really don't care about whether they're a 2, a 3, or a 4 seed. But what the only thing they do care about when they're a playoff team is, can we get the bye?
Yeah.
And so far, believe it or not, the Buffalo Bills still have an opportunity for the number 1 overall seed in the conference. So they still have something to play for. The Bills.
You saying the Eagles do? Oh, the Bills. No, the Bills definitely do. Yes.
Unlikely,
but possible.
How is that? They got to still surpass New England? Is that it?
they need to, all the teams that they're chasing have to lose one game out of the two, and they win their last two, and they're the number one seed. So that means they need Denver to lose to the Chargers. They need Houston to beat the Chargers. They need New England to lose one of their two, and the Jacksonville Jags to lose one of their two. And if that happens, then they're the number one seed.
New England one is the improbable one.
Yes.
The same holds true, Randy, for Tampa Bay. They can win out and win their division as well.
Yes.
For as poorly as they're playing, and right now Carolina has the hammer, Tampa Bay is still in charge of their own destiny.
But I think if Carolina beats Seattle, I think that clinches the division for them.
No, it doesn't. And that's the funny thing, is that Carolina basically, even though they're going to play to win.
Unless Tampa Bay loses this week.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah. Carolina knows, okay, if we win this game, we can clinch if Tampa loses. But they're playing at the same time, so that could be a good thing, especially if you're betting on Carolina. You don't know what's going on with the other game, so that's a good thing. But that's true. It's Tampa Bay.
If Carolina loses and Tampa Bay wins, they're tied, and so that Week 18 game is going to decide it either way.
Once again, that's why it means nothing. Yes, yeah. Tampa Bay's got everything in their control. It all depends on what Tampa Bay does. So,
yeah. Question is, can they flip the switch? And suddenly play.
Man, they've been playing horrible.
And with no excuse, Jim. I mean, they've had their regulars back. There's no excuse anymore.
I don't know. I've been totally wrong about this team. I thought that this team would really contend this year, but they've been a mess the last 5 weeks.
Well, they're not getting blown out, but they just can't find ways to win. Their confidence level is really bad. We know Baker's not 100%, probably not even 80%. But I think what's been hurting them all season has been the pass rush. They lost a couple of key guys early, even before the season began. And they knew right off the get-go that they were going to need everybody to stay healthy because they had no depth at pass rush. And it didn't happen. They had more injuries during the regular season on that side of the ball at the pass rush spot. And so that's really what's been hurting them more. That's why the defense hasn't lived up to their to what we thought that they would be this season as well. But you look, you're right. The offense is as healthy as they're going to be. There's no excuse on that side of the ball, which leads you to believe that you would think with a rookie quarterback with the Dolphins. See, you look at the loss to Atlanta and okay, Kirk Cousins, and he was playing better. It's a division game. Carolina, that all those I think you can excuse, but you can't excuse this game against Miami shouldn't even be close. It shouldn't even be close. And if Tampa Bay wins an ugly game like 16th and 13th, they're not beating Carolina next week. They have to, flip the switch this week and blow out Miami and get something positive going.
Let me ask you this, Greg, following along those lines. If Tampa Bay wins convincingly, would that be a reason to consider backing them against Carolina?
Yes.
As opposed to if they struggle but still win, going against them, like you said at the beginning. So evaluating Tampa's play against Miami will have a great deal to do, I think, with how many people, myself included, will approach Week 18.
Of course, if a convincing win's going to jack the price quite a bit, too.
Jim, let me ask you this question. We've got 2 weeks left in the NFL football season, and we're going to crown number one seeds. They're going to get buys. And you're looking at where they're sitting right now. Do you find value in betting the Rams at this price they are today, as opposed to where they were 2 weeks ago when they were the favorite?
It's hard to say because.
Do you mean to win the Super Bowl or the number one seed? Which is
to win the number one seed?
Yes, to win the NFC, right?
Because
NFC. Okay, that's different.
San Francisco is totally in charge of what happens. And if they win these two games, they're number one.
Yep, they can win out as well. Yes.
So basically, if you bet on Rams, you're really betting against San Francisco.
Right. You're betting against them to lose a game. Right. Exactly.
Can the Rams still get the number one seed if Seattle loses to San Francisco and San Francisco loses to Chicago?
Yes. The way the Rams are right now, the teams that can get to bye are Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and the Rams. And so in order for the Rams to get the number one seed, they need Seattle to lose to Carolina. Then what they need to happen is the San Francisco-Chicago winner needs to lose next week. So if that happens,
Chicago, I believe, is at. I think Chicago's at Detroit.
No, unfortunately, they host Detroit.
Detroit, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, San Francisco's at Seattle.
Yeah. So I don't think Chicago losing to Detroit the way Detroit looks.
What's the price right now for Rams to win the NFC?
Well, they're 4-1 to win the Super Bowl. So, which
they could probably
they're still the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right. So you're getting 425 betting on the Rams. Why not just take the points in San Francisco in the 2 games and roll the money over in the 2 games? Because I think you get a better price by doing it that way. Because if they lose 1 game straight up, they're not gonna win this number 1, which I think would probably roll it over to Seattle or Rams.
Did you say, Greg, plus 235 for the conference?
Correct.
You showing
for the
that
Rams.
Before? For the Rams,
yep.
Yeah.
For the Rams, yep. And San Francisco is.
They play Arizona at the end of the season, and they're huge money line favorites against Atlanta. But I'm sure the bookmakers probably know that plus 235 or whatever it was to win the conference is probably pretty close to what a money line parlay would pay.
And there's also this is also very important, and this is regarding. You mentioned San Francisco controls their destiny. So do the Chargers. So the Chargers can win their 2 games and get the West title, because they're not going to be able to get the number 1 seed unless New England loses. But the Chargers control their own destiny. And that's another reason why some people would look at that game and go, well, Houston's the team that needs to get to the playoffs. The Chargers are in the playoffs, so shouldn't that mean Houston will play harder? Not necessarily, because the Chargers need these 2 wins to win the division.
I know Mark is going to talk about what game intrigues us the most this weekend, and the one that I'm thinking of, we've not even talked about.
Well, let's talk about it, Andy. What game does intrigue you the most?
Cleveland hosting Pittsburgh. What will happen if Baltimore upsets Green Bay? All of a sudden, the game is important for Pittsburgh, okay, as far as that, because if they win, Baltimore's eliminated. If Baltimore loses, Pittsburgh clinches on Saturday before they take the field. That's what makes that very intriguing, and what Pittsburgh will do with starters tomorrow on Sunday at Cleveland, or against Cleveland, if indeed the game is needed next week against Baltimore.
So if Pittsburgh walks onto the field in the dog pound and they have the playoff in their back pocket, will that line go from Pittsburgh favorite to pick?
It should, because there's talk that they're going to start the rookie quarterback.
Who?
Pittsburgh.
What's his name?
Howard.
Oh, Will Howard from Ohio State.
Yeah. So
right.
There's talk not going to Howard. I'm sorry. So they wouldn't go to Rudolph. They would go to Howard. They would give the kid a shot, see how he plays. He's potentially their future. They want to see whether or not they.
You from Cleveland, you know how much Cleveland hates Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh hates. You know
to the max.
That game means a lot to Cleveland.
Absolutely, it's pride. Cleveland doesn't have a lot to hang their hat on these days.
Yeah.
They've been pummeled and beat like a wet dog when they visit Pittsburgh, but they've kind of held their own a little bit at home when the Steelers come in there.
Right.
It'll be
3 out of
interesting.
4, something like that. Haven't they done 3 out of 4 at Cleveland?
The Browns
pulling the upset.
Yeah, they played fairly well at home.
The Browns have beaten the Steelers the last 3 times in Cleveland.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. By the way, the Cleveland fans are the team that has 2 bitter rivalries every year, because they go against the Ravens, the old Cleveland Browns that abandoned them, and now of course the new Cleveland Browns, because they're from Cleveland.
Yeah, there's no more
Cincinnati in
Pittsburgh.
there.
If there was still a Modell connection to Baltimore, it would be probably a little bit more inflamed. But
if you like the Packers to win, then you might want to jump on the Browns money line right now at plus 150. Because again, if Pittsburgh does take out some of their starters, plays a rookie quarterback, that's going to be a value play right now. Again, if you think the Packers are going to win, you might want to go ahead and take advantage of that right now.
Well, that game may not have a regular quarterback in it. Willison against what's his face, the back. There might be 2 backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, we know Jackson's not going to play, but
Yeah.
I get the feeling
Jackson's
Love's
not
going to
gonna play,
play. I mean, he's
Really?
practiced a little bit this week. And
So is it Tyrod Taylor for sure for Baltimore?
no, it's Huntley.
You mean,
Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, Huntley, yes.
Yeah, he's playing. Because Lamar Jackson's already doubtful, and anytime a quarterback's doubtful, they don't play.
and I'm seeing this line only because it's been 3 all week, only at 3.5 right now for Green Bay. So I think it may also have to do who's starting for Green Bay.
Well, that line actually did jump up, though.
I saw it as high as 4.
Yeah. So you do have to wonder whether or not that jump happened after they found out that Jackson wasn't going to be available.
Well, I think they listed him yesterday as doubtful, but he hasn't practiced, and doubtful generally leads to they're not going to play.
Yeah. So.
And what is the condition of the Green Bay quarterbacks?
Again, they're both questionable, but
Love is dealing with the concussion. Is he dealing with the concussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they're both in concussion protocol, aren't they?
No, Willis has another ailment, but I just think that he's been in practice, and unless he has a setback, it looks like he's going to play. I'd be surprised if he doesn't play at this point. We'll find out tomorrow. Obviously, it's a Saturday game, but it looks like Love will play. It's a very important. And look, they're in the playoffs. I get it. But this is another one of those situations where you have a team that still has a little bit of something to play for, and that's why you go out there and you try to win the game. And as long as he's okay, I understand you don't want to hurt his chances of not being 100% in the playoffs. So we'll see. But I think they're leaning towards him playing. The other thing to keep in mind is Josh Jacobs did not play at the end of the game last week.
Right.
Didn't play in the fourth quarter. Didn't play in overtime. Banged up again. So will he play? Christian Watson also questionable. So they've got some guys, not just a quarterback situation. They got 2 of their top offensive guys that we don't even know if they're going to play, and that's not because of their.
I'm looking at the Don Best screen, and this came over, I guess, about an hour ago. Jordan Love has been downgraded to out. Josh Jacobs is listed as probable, and Watson is listed as questionable due to an illness. And Malik Willis is, I think, listed as probable.
Okay.
Lamar still listed as doubtful.
Well, the doctor has to clear Love, isn't that correct?
Yeah, because that's a protocol thing. Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm guessing that means he hasn't been cleared.
If you're not cleared on Friday,
or they're not expecting him to be cleared by tomorrow either.
Correct.
Let me throw something out there to you guys. And I got to say, watching the National Football League last week, I was thoroughly impressed with a couple of quarterbacks who I was not impressed with before. And one is Caleb Williams. Maybe I missed a lot of things about him early on, or maybe I didn't see him in a close call game like he was in last week, just throwing rope after rope after rope. What do you guys think of Caleb Williams? Is he the real deal?
2 words: Ben Johnson.
Oh, there you go.
I agree.
Correcting a lot of his flaws.
He's made if you look at the way that Caleb is playing this year, and then you look at the way Detroit is not playing this year, I think you see the value of that man.
Yes.
He must know what and the same thing could be said for Liam Cohen.
Oh yeah. Trevor Lawrence, absolutely.
It's I've never seen Lawrence play as good as he's playing, and obviously Baker Mayfield is suffering from him being gone.
Yep. That could well be. Yeah, that's like a chain reaction of what happens there. One quarterback improves, the other one declines. What's the common denominator? The one that people that used to be their coaches. Exactly. So
when you say the real deal, Mark, I think it all depends on what you would mean by that. If you're talking about, is he going to be that number 1 quarterback that is going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in a couple of years? My answer is no. Do you think he's going to be a top 10? Could he be a Dak Prescott? Yeah, I think he could be that. And that might just be fine. As long as you have a good defense and a good coaching staff, you can win a Super Bowl like that. But I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar.
Greg, you have to also remember some of these guys that you think are better than him are going to be gone because they're getting older. And so now, I mean, there's a real shortage of real quality quarterbacks. But if Dak retires, granted, Dak has played great this year, no question about it. But some of these guys are not going to be around 5 or 10 years from now. And there's not a lot coming out of college that you really can be excited about.
So if you were drafting the National Football League draft right now this year and you had your choice of Caleb Williams or Drake May, which quarterback are you taking, Andy?
I'm sorry, repeat those again. Drake May?
I said Drake May or Caleb Williams. First pick of the draft.
If we were to hold the draft today,
I'll take
that's
May.
interesting because Caleb Williams so much, but Drake May is more of a historical type pro quarterback. He could do an awful lot, and I guess they're both in the conversation for MVP. I think that May probably has a huge lead on him. The only concern we have about Drake May is I don't know if he's faced really some outstanding defenses this year, so we really don't have a read on that yet. But certainly every other aspect of his game would point to him.
Speaking of that subject, that's a real good subject, and you keep hearing about playing bad teams, and good teams playing bad teams and winning games. Are they that good? And I was playing in my database a little bit this week, and I'm going to get a little bit more defined with it when we come next week. But my starting point was looking at how teams have fared against opponents that have winning records this year. And surprisingly, New England has played a good handful of winning teams, and they've fared real well against those teams. So I guess it all goes to their record. I mean, how many wins do they have right now in the season? 12. So obviously some of them were going to be winning teams, but I think it's easier to gauge in my mind. What I'm trying to say is to weigh teams on a scale of in who they beat as to not who they are in perception, but who they were in terms of wins and losses when they played at that particular time.
Well, New England's wins over current winning teams. They lost to Pittsburgh. That's a winning team. They beat Carolina. That's now a winning team. They split with Buffalo. And that's it.
I do something similar to that. I put teams, and again, it's based on their records, category A, B, and C, how each team does against those levels. Category A, teams that are more than 2 games over 500, meaning right now after 15 games, 9-6 or better. Category B teams are teams that are within 2 games of 500 either way, and Category C teams are teams that are more than 2 games below 500. Okay, we've now got a decent size. So the wins against Carolina right now, who I believe is 8-7, I don't factor in there. But the games against Pittsburgh, who I think is 9-6 now, and the 2 Buffalo games, they're 1-2 straight up, 1-2 against the spread. They've only averaged 22.7 points per game, although it's only 3 games, and their defense has been better than their offense. But unfortunately, 3 games is a small sample, but it illustrates how few quality teams, and again, quality being defined in my case by their record. How few quality teams they've played. That means 12 of the 15 teams they've played are 8-7 or worse.
Jim, let me ask you this. Talking about weighing teams against winning opponents, what's a better metric to use? Like Greg mentioned, they faced only 4 teams that have winning records right now. Or is it a better metric to use what their record was at the time they played them? Because if they handed them a loss, obviously, it would work against them in that sense because one of their losses came from them when they were a winning team. How would you gauge against a winning team? Would you say it's overall for the season to date or at the time they played?
Initially, I would have to say at the time they played.
And that's how my computer looks at it.
The reason I don't is that the fewer games you play, you don't know how good the team is. The more games you play, teams have solidified themselves into certain categories, A, B, C, whatever it is. So in other words, for example, team may be 2-0. So in game 3, they've beaten a winning team, but it's only 2-0. That team could be the New York Giants or somebody who's now 2-13. But that record but the record of that opponent who beat them in week 3 is beating a team that was a winning team even though they've lost, let's say, or the Arizona Cardinals may be a better example, because they did start 2-0, and now they've lost 12 out of 13. So whoever they played in Game 3 under that theory would be credited as playing a winning team, even though they really are a 3-12 team right now.
I think we have to evaluate why a team goes from being bad to good or good to bad. Could be injuries, and if a team loses a lot of players,
yes,
especially in a cluster, offense or defense, I think you have to evaluate that, because now all of a sudden they're not the same. They're not the same team as they were, and it's not any fault of their own. It's just injuries. That's, you got to remember also that there's 14 teams are going into the playoffs, and only about 10 to 12 of them are really any good. There's not. You're not going to say that 14 teams really have a chance to win the Super Bowl, because some of those teams at the bottom are not. We all know they're not going to win the Super Bowl. So this is a league that is maybe 10 at the top and 22 at the bottom. Meaning the bottom, meaning the middle and the bottom.
right.
So it's really a B or C league with a couple of teams that might be B plus. So it's not like what we used to have, where we had quality around the whole up and down. We don't have that right now. It's really poor.
Which teams do you think do not right now, out of these 7, do not have a chance to win the Super Bowl?
Go ahead.
You got Denver.
No, they have a chance.
You don't think Denver has a chance to win the Super Bowl, Greg?
Oh,
No, I'm just listening to teams. You got Denver. You can just tell me no. Denver, Seattle, New England, Chicago,
No.
Jacksonville, Philly, Chargers.
All those teams have a chance. Definitely.
49ers,
Yep.
Bills, Rams.
Everybody that's seeded 1 through 7 has a chance. Yes.
Packers probably marginally, but the Packers no. But out of those 7, the Packers no.
All right, so the Panthers, no.
No.
Okay, so Panthers,
Steelers, no.
Panthers, Steelers, Packers, and how about the Texans?
Offensive line injuries, no.
Okay, so those are the 4: Panthers, Steelers, Texans, and Packers. Okay.
Another way of looking at these teams that I will often do when we make it to the playoffs, guys, is weighing them against how they performed against other fellow playoff teams. So that sort of dispels, I guess, the argument of weighing their strength, weighing their ability as an overall record for the season or at the time they played. But when you go into the playoffs, you're going to gauge them against other fellow playoff teams.
That's fair.
It's another way to look at that. Yeah.
Now, if they all, the thing is, it's unfair because some of them might not have played any playoff teams, and others might have played 6 or 7 of them. So I don't know if we can do that. I like that idea, but yeah, I don't know if it'll. And by looking at the schedule, which I don't have in front of me, I'm sitting in my car. I don't know how close we can get to being fair with that evaluation, but I like the idea of that.
Well, if you look at the 2 number 4 seeds who are the leaders of their division, and it's the only reason they're the number 4 seeds. It's because they're coming from weak divisions: Carolina in the NFC South, Pittsburgh in the AFC North. So you're going to find those 2 teams probably not having all that much of a result against other playoff teams because they didn't play as many playoff teams.
Correct.
At least, from the get-go anyway.
And then you have to look at, again, I still go back to current form and why you might have to reevaluate the team because, hey, you got a team that's lost their 2 corners or an offensive lineman or a defensive edge rusher. There's so many things that you have to look at. It's almost looking at like a baseball game where there's so many things to look at: the starting pitcher, then the middleman, and the relief guy, the end closer. And there's so many things to look at now because there's so many over the top injuries in the NFL now.
And the first game that's going to kick off tomorrow is a pretty important one with Houston and the Chargers. Yes. And this is the wild card rematch last year where Justin Herbert imploded and had his worst game maybe of his entire career. So you would think he'd look up to this game. Interesting. Houston's on a 7-game win streak. Chargers are on a 4-game win streak. And you had mentioned that one stat with the Chargers, who were coming in off of 3 straight upset wins. Houston just did the same thing. Houston just recently won 3 straight games as a dog.
And what did they do when they were a favorite, Greg?
Well, they beat Arizona in the first game. They were a 10-point home favorite. They blew them out. And then last week, when they played the Raiders, they barely held on to beat them.
Let me mention something about New England, because I think this will put another perspective on it. I mentioned ABC against the A teams, which are 9-6, or better than 1-2. And not only is that just 1-2, that's the fewest number of games that any team has played against a team that is currently 9-6 or better. Now let's take a look at how they do against the Category B teams, which are those teams that are currently, I think it's between 7-8 or 8-7, very mediocre since they played 15. Against those quality of teams, the Patriots are 3-0. They've only played 3 such teams, so that's a total of 6 games. Their other 9 games have all come against teams that are 6-9 or worse. 8-1 in those games.
Wow.
More than half their schedule has been against teams that currently are losing 15, have records 2 games below 500 or more.
Which team is this, Andy?
Late in the season.
I couldn't.
New England.
Okay, New England. So they played a very light schedule.
Yeah. New England. The Patriots are 9 of their 15 games so far, and actually, the Jets will be another fit team that'll fit in that category. And let me see, where is Miami right now? Miami is 6-9 right now, so they could be in that same category if they lose this week to Tampa Bay. So that'd be another weak team that New England will play.
That would definitely be a mark against them for sure. You have strength of schedule is an important stat.
Well, especially when more than half your games, 9 out of 15, are against the worst teams, and it could very easily be 11 out of 17.
Believe it or not, if the Colts upset Jacksonville on Sunday and the Chargers beat Houston, the Colts can get the wild card by beating Houston next week.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to come close to beating Jacksonville this week, but they have a chance. Check this, search this stat out for Jacksonville. So maybe you guys might know this, but Jacksonville is 17-3-1 against the spread in their last 21 against the Colts.
Yep.
I think Jacksonville's rather own that division too.
Well, one thing about that, what is their record in Indianapolis? Because we know the Colts have not won down in Jacksonville, 10, 11 years? I don't know how many they covered of those 11 games.
Well, there's another stat I'd like to look at, and I don't know who has this in front of them, but the one thing that really helped the Colts last week was they played San Francisco, who is at the bottom of the league in getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, Jacksonville is kind of at the other end of the spectrum. They do pretty well getting after the quarterback, and you have a very immobile quarterback. And I give him all the credit in the world in coming back and playing at 44 after 5 years off, but I don't know what he's going to do against that kind of pressure.
Yeah, the Jags are red hot right now. They've outscored their last 6 opponents 205-92.
You can still get them about 14-1 to win the Super Bowl. Not a bad price for a team that's playing as well. And again, you have a new head coach with a quarterback who was picked number 1, and finally he's getting some real good coaching. And a defense that has played tremendously well over the last month and a half.
How do they rank getting to the quarterback? Does anybody have that?
What was that question, Jim? How they rank with what?
How do Jacksonville rank at getting pressuring and
that I don't know.
Sacks against the quarterback? Because this is a stationary This is a stationary quarterback they're going to face. This guy can't move at all.
I think you're being kind when you say stationary. Yes.
Yeah. I keep track of offensive and defensive sacks, and Jacksonville actually is one of the weaker teams, averaging 1.93 sacks per game, under 2. And there are only a handful of them. I think San Francisco's even worse at 1.2, but there aren't too many under 2. Compare that to Denver, which averages, this is before yesterday, 4.2 sacks of the opposing quarterback per game, and there are a few over 3. Cleveland is there. I think Seattle is another one that is pretty high. So Jacksonville does not do that well as far as avoiding sacks. They're about middle of the pack, about 2.5 sacks per game that they suffer. So a little bit below average defensively.
So Indianapolis is going to have another opportunity to keep the quarterback standing up, which gives them a chance.
Well, the game that I can't believe we haven't talked about this game yet. The game everybody will be tuned into will be the New York Giants at the Las Vegas Raiders. And you must be going to the game, right, Jim? You and Andy?
I had to pay somebody money, so I didn't have to go.
Okay. So
to get rid of your tickets, yeah. I think
that's
tickets, the game
huh?
I thought we were going to talk. I thought that's the game we're going to talk about about 5 minutes after the recording ends.
Yeah. So
very good, Andy.
So the Raiders are trying to do everything they can to make sure they lose that game because Crosby's been shut down. So he's not going to play the rest of the season. And
I know Bowers, I believe Bowers has it. Now Crosby's been added to.
The Raiders in effect.
I knew that Bowers was.
One of these fan bases is going to sit there on Sunday night after winning this game, and they're going to be royally pissed.
That's right. And it won't be the Raiders because they're basically tanking by putting all their players on IR.
Yeah. So
I'm still showing Crosby as questionable as of an hour ago.
They're tanking by talent attrition is what they're tanking by. Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to be look, I think it's great for the league that, for the Raiders and the league that if they lose this game and they have the number 1 pick, that they're going to draft Mendoza. It's a lock, stone cold, done deal. With the Giants, they're going to trade the pick, and it's going to lead to a lot of speculation for months. Who is going to make the trade with the Giants so they can move up to get Mendoza? But the Raiders can just answer that question very easily by just losing this game and solidifying the spot number 1 and taking Mendoza.
Let me ask you this, Greg, because
if that was that kid, I would not want to play there.
No.
Greg, you do a lot with our lads, and they do a lot with draft. Do they consider Mendoza the number 1 college prospect, or is there someone who might be right there with him or maybe a little ahead of him?
Yeah, our lads doesn't have him as the number 1 prospect. Let me see where they have him because they did have. I think it came out not too long ago with their top 32. Let's see who they have here. Pop it up on the screen. This was just a couple of weeks ago, I think. And they've got Bain from Miami. Which is actually a little preview to next week.
Oh no, I meant number 1 quarterback, top quarterback.
Oh, that's easy. Oh yeah, it's Mendoza and nobody.
Oh, okay, that's what I meant. Okay.
Oh yeah, So Mendoza right now they have him as 4th overall. I guess the Alabama kid is probably the next quarterback. Let's see, they have him 9th. I wouldn't be surprised if he drops. He hasn't looked all that particularly good, and he might come back.
That's number 1 versus number 2 in the college football playoff on New Year's Day, Alabama, Indiana.
Yep, just like Mendoza against Ohio State in the game they played against Julian Sayin. At the time, they were the top 2 Heisman leaders. Jim, we're gonna pick this up a little bit here, and I'm going to ask you what game intrigues you the most on the National Football League card this week.
Very few. Actually, but
that's an honest answer.
I mean, it's really hard for me to look at these seriously for serious money, which is what I do. I mean, basically, they are preseason games. So, let me pull up the Sunday schedule here. I would say, from a standpoint of
I think I should. Maybe I should have some music ready.
Yeah, you should.
Let's see. What do I have here?
Like maybe a death roll. Okay, money line play Niners.
Money line play Niners.
What would you say, Jim?
Money line play Niners.
What is that right now? 150?
Probably close to that.
Let's see.
3.5 right now, the line, I believe, on that Sunday night game.
It is 166 here. Okay.
Let me see what I'm showing money lines.
And
I'm showing 170. I'm showing about 170 to 175 here in Vegas.
Still no word if Kittle's going to play. I think he'll be at game time.
That's a big price. So let me do better here. That's a big price for most people to lay.
The Bears have won 4 games in their last 6 straight up as a road dog, including the win at Philadelphia.
Here's the problem with I see this. You have a very veteran coach who's been to the Super Bowl the last few years.
Yep.
Maybe not last year, but he's been to the playoffs, the Super Bowl. He's been there. Purdy was in there for 2 years ago against a brand new coach, brand new quarterback that have got to be very elated about where they are. And I see a letdown there for this team because they've already filled their cup, so to speak, where the Niners are not going to feel that way because they've been there and have failed a couple of times. And, you know, they're getting older. They have a real good chance of being the number 1 seed and playing Bears and Niners, Seattle in the last 2 weeks. They have a very good chance of being that team.
An emotional letdown for Chicago as well, Jim. I mean,
exactly.
Well, the only thought I have there is they were in that same spot in the game, the sandwich game between Green Bay and Green Bay at home, and they blew out Cleveland. Now, okay, it's Cleveland, but that's the kind of game that if they had a letdown, they win 23-20 like Buffalo did last week. So
yeah, and Chicago could still get the number 1 seed too.
Yeah.
So if Seattle loses to Carolina and Chicago wins their last 2 games, Chicago gets the number 1 seed in the bye. So
I happen to like San Francisco as well, but it is what would normally be considered a letdown spot. But the last time they were in the spot, they didn't let down.
Well, the thing that gets me, guys, is that win was not only exciting and dramatic and maybe arguably the best game of the season. The Bears win the game against their arch rival, but they got buried in the stats. I mean, they could lose 163 yards in the contest.
Finally, somebody made an onside kick late and took advantage of it.
Yes, exactly.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
That was totally incredible.
Onside
that's what teams of destiny do, however.
Yeah. Like you guys were saying about the Chiefs, how they won all those games last year. That's the thing. Once the season is over for Bears fans, they might have to just be wary about next season because they won a lot of close games this year, a lot of really freaky ways.
Well, you know who the leader in the clubhouse doing that this year is, Greg, in the National Football League? The Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Them too. Yeah.
They've won 10 games, one-score games.
And they'll both get first place schedules next year too.
Yeah. By the way, the thing that's interesting is how do you look at teams that continue to win despite not impressive stats where they're playing better teams and they find ways to win like the Broncos have, like the way the Bears have. Now, maybe we won't know until the playoffs. Denver at least has some experience in their playoff game. I think it was against Pittsburgh last year. The Bears, of course, have been about 4 or 5 years before they've been there. But I think that does present a handicapping dilemma. Do you go with the hot team that has confidence that they can win, or do you go with the team that, at least on paper, looks like the stronger and sometimes even more stronger team? And the problem with that is we're only going to have one chance to find out the answer for each other.
Okay, well, since the price is so high on that, I'm not going to give that out. I'll give you 2 plays instead. The Panthers and the Falcons, both getting reasonable numbers at home in games that probably they're going to play hard for their pride against teams that are easily beatable in this situation.
And have massive look-aheads, too. Seattle with the Rams, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go. I can't give out a 170 money line play. It's not. I mean, well, first of all, I bet a much cheaper number. So, but it's been driven up so high now. So
yeah, it's interesting for Seattle's perspective to win the game of of Mike McDonald's existence as a head coach in Seattle. It's a tremendous win. It's great for what they're doing, but now the very next week they're in a situation where if they lose the game, they could find themselves as the number 6 seed next week. And if they don't win that final regular season game, that's where they stay. They go into the playoffs as like a 6 seed. So they have to keep this momentum going.
The thing that's also good about Jim's 2 picks, Atlanta and Carolina, obviously the situation for the opponents, the Rams and Seattle next week, is that the Rams and Seattle can both win their games and not cover the spreads because those numbers are, 7 in the case of Carolina, 8 to 8.5 in the case of the Falcons.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the winner of that the game between those two teams, between Seattle and the Rams, wins that game next week, they will. San Francisco had a chance to win out, but they'll take the position ahead of the other, regardless of what they do this week.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I think we said earlier, I think the only way that the Rams, I believe, can win, and Greg, I think you talked about this, is if the Bears beat the 49ers, the Bears lose to Detroit, and the 49ers then beat Seattle.
Well, it's basically they need the Chicago-San Francisco winner to lose next week.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which team it is. They just have to hope whoever wins this week loses next week, which is not really a crazy thing. But again, they need Seattle to lose. That's the crazier thing plus that. So it is interesting that the Rams lost that game the way they did, and they still have a reasonable opportunity that they can be the number 1 seed again. So
it'll be interesting to see how the Rams come out on Monday night, because they'll know the results of the Seattle game and they'll know the results of the San Francisco game from Sunday night. They play Monday night. They got to be in a really, really bad mood. They had that Carolina loss a few weeks ago, and then the way that they lost the Seattle game. What was that the stat they showed? Seattle was something like 1 in 150 or something when they were down by more than 14 points in the fourth quarter, and they came back and they made the 2-point conversions.
I think it was McVay that whenever he had a lead like that, 14 or more going into the fourth quarter, he had never lost or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that was.
You have to think that the Rams, well, I guess it's this way, and I guess from what you said, Greg, that the Rams, regardless of what happens with Seattle and San Francisco and Chicago, the Rams will still have a chance to win the number 1 seed. If things break right.
As long as Seattle loses. Yeah. Because if Seattle
loses,
if Seattle and San Francisco wins, then they're out. So yeah, they have to have Seattle to lose. But like you said, they'll know on Monday night. So make sure you keep that in mind out there, everybody that's listening.
Which means that 8.5 could become 10.5, could become 6.5.
It was funny. They were going over. I don't know. I saw this somewhere, and it's regarding like what will one team do when they need to find a quarterback next year? I won't bring up the team. So they noticed they said, okay, well, go into the draft. You can't get the draft pick. You can go into make a trade. If you can't make a trade, here are the quarterbacks that might work out for you guys if you want to sign them or something like that. And it could have been a trade too, but they put Kirk Cousins' name in there. And it's like, come on, you actually think a team that needs
serious about a quarterback?
Yeah, needs to find a quarterback next year to improve their team so they can make a run at the playoffs or something is going to go to Kirk Cousins? Come on now. I mean, it's not that I don't think that if he was healthy that he could do that, but who's going to count on Kirk Cousins to stay healthy for 17 games next season?
It'd be like saying Marcus Mariota would be your guy. Again, where's he going to take you?
Yeah, that story for Mariota. As soon as you heard that he got hurt, it was like, this is the story of Marcus Mariota's career.
Yep.
Just could never stay healthy.
The league is in big trouble quarterback-wise. There's no question about it. And I don't know what they're going to do about it because it's hard to find 32 quality quarterbacks. And then, of course, because of injuries, you need another 32.
Well, you talk about the league, Jim, and I got to share this with you. I'm putting into our coffee club for our weekend edition tomorrow. I love quotes. And did you guys happen to read the quote of Charles Barkley and what it was he said about the National Football League?
No,
How
I did
recent
not.
was the quote?
The quote was like yesterday. Okay.
Okay, no, I didn't hear. I've heard a few of his NFL quotes over the past few weeks.
All right, let me find this and bring this up for you guys because Charles, he just tells it like it is and he doesn't care what anybody thinks.
It's true.
What his quote is this. He was talking about Roger Goodell, and he basically said, hold on, I thought I had it here, but I don't. There we go. What he basically said was the NFL got greedy and started adding Christmas games. We used to have this day to ourselves, but
Yes.
Roger Goodell and them pigs at the NFL always want to hog every day of the week now. Christmas is an NBA game. Them pigs
Not
at the
only that,
NFL.
you now have to charge. They now have to pay to get it on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
That's the epitome of greed? Okay,
Yeah,
they're charging
both.
They're charging players to watch what the streaming channels are paying them a fortune for to broadcast.
Yeah,
because it was the holidays.
You have these teams. They should change the schedule. You should not have a team, and I forget who it was on Detroit who talked about it. You should not have a team play on both Thanksgiving and Christmas, one or the other, but not both. These people have families. These are two of the most important family holidays of the year: Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. And you're going to take away one of those days, or both of those days, from one of those teams.
Well, there's a remedy to that, Andy. All they have to do for those 3 games is they have to slot the Browns, the Jets, and the Giants in each of those 3 games, and they won't have much of a rating at all to worry about.
I'll be curious to see what the ratings were yesterday compared to
those
a
3
typical
games
NBA
yesterday
game.
turned out like the Browns, the Jets, and the they were horrible.
Yes, they were absolutely horrible. Well, Jim, I'm going to let you go. I know you got to go. We got to wrap up a little college football here before we get out of here. I got some leftover goodies from Christmas dinner here that I'm going to ask my wife to heat up for me. So if you will wish Roz the very best, Merry Christmas to you as always. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll look forward to visiting with you next week.
Thank you much. Thank you and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and Colleen and all the guys on here, Andy and Greg, and let's talk soon and have a great weekend and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.
That was the legend, Jim Fish from Las Vegas, full of wisdom as always. We really look forward to his commentary each and every week here on the ATS podcast. And before we move over to the college football side of things, I want to remind our listeners out there that do us a big favor and be sure to hit the subscribe button. It means a whole lot to us, and hit that like button as well. And ring the bell. We love when you ring the bell. We've been talking about Proline TV and the perks channel that we have. You join the button, click on the join button, and you'll find Jim Feist, myself, and a bunch of bundled perks for picks from our team of experts, from Andy, Greg, myself, and Jim. Just visit our community page to take advantage of our Proline TV perks channel. It'll probably be the best move that you're going to make this holiday season. All right, guys, let's get it over to the college football side of things, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty portion of the college football bowl games. Whenever the New Year's Day bowl games get here, it's really, really good. And it's also going to be filled with college football playoff teams on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve day. But before we start that, I want to share a little bit of our commentary, of a piece of commentary here about the theory of what have you done for me lately. And from our midweek alert statistical newsletter, which, I really enjoy putting together. And even after I put it together, I still go back and read it every time just to see if there's anything I missed when it was put together here. But I want to share with you guys how teams in the college football bowls are doing, how their conferences are doing respectively as we head into this weekend. The AAC, the American Athletic Conference, has really struggled. They're 0-3 straight up and against the spread at their 3 bowl teams thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah, the AAC.
And they were good bowl teams with Memphis, South Florida, and Tulane. The Tulane loss and the one-sided loss, not totally unexpected, but both Memphis and South Florida were favored, and neither really showed up.
Yeah, well, the only thing to keep in mind, and this is important, is that both South Florida and Memphis didn't have their head coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of caveats that go with these records.
Yeah,
that's for sure. The ACC, 2-3 straight up, 3-2 to the spread. The 2-3 is probably not a surprise because they were considered to be the weakest of the Power 4 conferences, and I think they'll continue to worsen that record as they move on.
Interestingly enough, one of them, the winners was Miami in that upset.
Yep.
Minor upset because it was
but Miami, a quality team because I guess you can qualify them as a quality team because they made the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And they proved their worth in that sense. The Big Ten's only played
huge drop off from Miami to anyone you want to rank second.
That's exactly right. That's why they're in the playoff and nobody else is. Big Ten's only played twice so far, guys. They won both games. They went 1-1 to the spread. The Big 12 hasn't played a game yet this year. I was a little bit surprised. We're this deep into the bowl season, and nobody from the Big 10, or Big 12, I should say, has made an appearance. It's kind of rather odd. The Conference USA, 3-2 straight up and against the spread. We find an abundance of teams from these minor group of 5 conferences because they're the fill-in guys. The guys that don't make the big one.
Those are the ones where you get the 5 and 7 teams to qualify.
Exactly right.
When people like Kansas.
The point spread winner so far in the college football bowl games, the Mid-American Conference. They've been in 3 bowl games. They've cashed all 3 times. They won 2 of them straight up on the score.
Well, except for today.
Well, I had this prepared before today.
Yeah.
So we'll tweak that after the show is over. The Mountain West.
I wish you had it prepared after today, which would have included another win for the MAC, but didn't work out that way.
I understand. Mountain West Conference, 4 bowl games, 1-3 straight up and against the spread, not showing all that well this year. The Southeast Conference, just 2-2 straight up and against the spread. And the Sun Belt, who is normally pretty good in these conference games, at least against the spread they are, because, they're excited to be here. They come and they try hard, and the other teams usually play down to their level. There have been 6 Sun Belt teams that have made an appearance. They've gone 2-4 straight up and 3-3 against the spread. So
are there any of those teams in that recap that are 500 against the spread, other than the Mid-American?
What was the question, Andy?
ATS over 500 in their limited games.
That are over 500. You talking about the conferences?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the ACC 3-2, the Conference USA 3-2, and the Sun Belt 3, or the MAC 3-0. Those are the only 3 winning conferences, per se. Everybody else is either 500 or under. But we still got quite a few games to play here this weekend. I want to ask you a question here, Greg. What has caught your eye on what we've seen here so far in the college football bowl games? Anything surprising, or has it been rather bland from your eyes?
Yeah, the bowl system's just unwatchable at this point. So I'd have to go to the playoffs, but that's not a bowl game yet. So no, not really. Other than it just, I'm maybe a little bit surprised that I've seen a lot of blowouts. I mean, I don't know if that's normal, but there's been a lot of blowouts. So that's maybe the one thing I have noticed.
Well, what we've got coming up here, we're doing this podcast today, but what we've got coming up are the 4 college football playoff games, obviously, and a lot of the other bowl games are going to be filled with minor teams, really, truthfully. I mean, you might get a good team or 2 that might sprinkle in there.
Yeah, matter of fact, if we do our show next Friday, the playoffs will be moving on to the semifinals. So this will be the last time we'll be together before those games.
Yeah, the Peach Bowl.
Why do they have 4 bowl games on January 2nd? Who really cares on January 2nd? I mean, it gives us something to bet on, but is anyone really going to pay attention to?
What is that? Is that Friday?
Yeah.
That's probably you probably answered it right there.
Well, I think it's called ESPN is why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about the money, man. And from Friday, look at this. From Thursday,
Mark, you and I are old enough to remember. I don't think Greg is quite. I went back 1970. There were 11 bowl games.
Wow.
And they all had good teams. Of course, I think it was still at that time where, well, maybe it was the Big Ten only that only sent their champion, the other conference. And I don't no, that may have been the first year Notre Dame actually decided after about 50 years to go back into bowl games. But, but they were really good matchups. We don't have nearly as many good matchups. The one that's interesting, and I think you said last week, if you were Rip Van Winkle and you fell asleep on Labor Day and you woke up, December 15th and looked at the bowl schedule and you say, what the heck is number 1 Penn State and number 3 Clemson?
What happened to that, right?
Yeah, it's probably Illinois, Tennessee, Iowa, Vandy, and Michigan, Texas. Those are probably the only bowl games that really.
Iowa, Vandy is very intriguing because of Iowa's great defense and Vanderbilt's great offense with Pavia in there. Pavia, and the fact that at least late in the year, the last couple of games, Iowa actually showed some offense.
Yeah, Iowa has covered all 7 games when they played winning teams this year.
Well, that's a real great stat there, Greg.
Yeah,
and they gave, I think, was it Ohio State, Penn State, and or was it Ohio State?
It was
Indiana, their closest games.
Yeah, Indiana, not Penn State. Well, the Penn State one that was but Indiana, and then they had another close one in there. They had a close game at USC. Oregon, yep, that one looked like they were going to pull off the upset, and they just couldn't do it. So even though their quarterback play improved a little bit, that's what's been holding them back. It's just amazing. It's like you can't find a quarterback. I mean, nobody's asking Iowa to go out and get like a star quarterback, but you can't find like the 50th best quarterback in the nation. These guys they're throwing in there the last few years shouldn't even be FBS quarterbacks.
Well, that's what the NIL's all about. They're supposed to be able to have some backers, somebody to be able to refortify this program and spend some money and bring some talent in there. But I think Kirk Ferentz just does it his way, the way he wants to see it. You mentioned defensive
it's worked
dominance.
quite well. I mean, he's constantly a 9-10 win team.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Drab and boring to watch, but he is nonetheless. Arizona State Duke, guys, Sun Bowl. I find that to be an intriguing bowl game. Number one, myself personally, I'm an anti-Duke guy, an anti-Mario Cristobal guy. Stunned that they won the ACC. But how would they feel? What do you think their psyche is for Duke to win the ACC and be relegated, if you will, to the Sun Bowl?
Well, I actually think they have something to prove. I actually would say that this
is
a
shoulder?
Game. Excuse me?
A chip on their shoulder?
Yes. You did not let us go to the playoff game.
What's the Arizona State quarterback situation?
Not good.
He's out for sure.
Yeah.
But the backup quarterback played really well. In fact, I was doing some homework, and in a couple of the starts he was voted player of the week in the conference, the backup quarterback.
Well, he probably ran for 150 yards.
He did. It's exactly what he is. He's all about running. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
But they've got a lot of guys out, Arizona State. I mean, not only is the quarterback out, but Jordan Tyson not playing, everything wide receiver. Their top tight end, who's the number 3 receiver on the team, he's not playing. Their 2 of their top defensive backs not playing. 2 of their top offensive tackles not playing. Their leading rusher and 1,000-yard rusher not playing. There's just too many guys not playing, and Duke has basically everybody playing except their offensive lineman who's got pro potential. So, and they got a chip on their shoulder. So that's why I kind of like Duke in this spot.
Duke opened 1. It's now up to 3, despite all those
because of the Arizona State defections or injuries.
Yeah,
my biggest concern to
Duke
is
a very small move.
Yeah, it's not major.
No.
My biggest concern to Duke, though, is they've been really getting beaten up in the stats. 5 of the last 6 games they've been out-yarded. Yeah. But yet,
that's against weak teams in the weak ACC.
Yeah, UConn outstatted them. Wake Forest outstatted them. Virginia pounded them by 290 yards.
That was a regular season game?
Yeah, regular season game. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. So I think it's an intriguing game. I would have loved to have seen the talent be at hand for Arizona State, because I might have snapped the rubber band to fade this Duke Blue Devil team, who I think is really, really overrated.
Well, if Arizona State if they would have just stayed healthy after beating Texas Tech, they could have been a playoff team again.
Yep.
But
wonder if the over in this game might make sense, given Duke's propensity to be outgained and Arizona's backup quarterback play.
Well, they've got a brilliant young head coach there, Kenny Dillingham. He's done a great job with this program. I think he's going to be coaching at a bigger, better level here soon. And a win here might help hoist him to that level.
Did he just get a contract extension?
That's a good question.
I read.
That's a good question.
He was being thrown around for the Michigan job.
Well, they have their next head coach.
Yeah.
Michigan.
Now,
yeah. And this is, it's not a surprise, Mark. We talked about it last week when Whittingham left Utah, and we talked about it wasn't his last game. He was just leaving Utah.
Yeah, and it wasn't retiring, right?
No. And it was like, well, this is like a perfect situation with all of the coaches that Michigan was interested in had already, upped their deal. So it was going to cost Michigan a lot of money to take one of these coaches away. Here was a coach just sitting there right after he just left Utah, and a perfect type of coach too for the program. And you heard nothing about it until today. That was the strange thing. Yeah, just about an hour ago.
He's going to Michigan?
Yes.
I wonder what that effect does on the Nebraska-Utah game out here, where the Utah fans may have thought that this was it for him, and now he's abandoning them for the money.
Yeah, well, he was leaving anyway, but at least to coach this game.
But I'm saying that maybe the thought was that whatever he said, he was actually going to retire. He'd been there, 17 years, 18 or 12 years, something like that.
But he said at the time it was not retiring, but the thing that you're saying though, Andy, is important, because I even though the line was big, and they do have like 3 or 4 really good players not playing in the game. By the way, Utah, they've got 2 starting offensive linemen who one of them is like a top 10 draft pick. They have their top 2 edge rushers not playing. So they've got key guys not playing, but even though it was like, well, Kyle Williams, this is his last game. He's coaching the game. They're going to play their hearts out for him.
Yeah.
And now it looks like he's not going to play in the game. He's not going to coach the game.
No, that's part of it also. But when you say you retire, it's not usually to take another job. It's to take a year away.
I didn't hear him say he was retiring.
No, what's that?
Yeah, there was no word about him retiring. He was just.
I thought you said that was part of.
No, that was he had just come out and he had left the program, and that was it. And there was most people speculated that must have been it, but he came out and said, no, I'm not retiring. You
have to wonder
leaving.
how the kids feel about it now. But now that he's not coaching, maybe they go out and say, okay, you're leaving the Utes. We'll show you what a great job you had. And
he's definitely out as the coach, Greg.
I haven't heard that, but I can't believe if he took the Michigan job, he'd still coach there. I don't know. I mean, because that's big, because I was ready to put good money on Utah.
Well,
now I'm not going to do it if he's not coaching the game.
If he stays there, it speaks to his loyalty. I know he's abandoning the ship, but he's seemed to be a pretty tried and true loyal coach up until this big announcement. The hiring of him to Michigan is sort of similar to me of Matt Campbell going to Penn State, how they both landed good head coaches.
Yeah.
When it looked like they were kind of like in flux, if you will, per se.
Yeah.
By the way, the line has not really moved, opening 14.5, and I'm seeing basically 14s across the board. I thought it may have gone up a little bit, but I guess not. If it has, it's come down. Let me quickly check what I thought I may have seen it go up. Yeah, I did. I saw it as high as 17.5 at Westgate. So it's now gone down to basically where it opened. So apparently there has been a reaction to him, A, leaving the program, and B, not coaching the team.
Well, the line moved down about a week after it came out, like you said, Andy, at about 17.5 down to 15. And then, but like I said, I think what I would attribute that line moving, because there's no reason for it to move. Whittingham had already announced what he was doing. But I think the line moved a couple of spots based on what I said. those are major players that Utah is not playing in the game.
Yeah.
And you can't just say that those 5 or 6 best players on your team leaving has to cost them a couple points. It just had to.
Well, the line on December 15th at its height was 17.5.
Mm-hmm.
It went slightly down. By the end of the 15th, it had dropped to 16.5. I'm sorry, it had dropped down to 15. I'm sorry, to 16.5. On the 18th, it went down to 16, and it stayed there until today, when it dropped from 16 immediately down to 14.5 and 14.
Well, that
I
must
think
be.
It's actually,
he's not going to
going
coach.
Michigan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not touching the game now.
When was he named the Michigan coach?
30 minutes ago.
Yeah, that was news to me when you said that, Greg. I didn't realize that.
So it's probably a combination of both. A, he's leaving the program. He's not going to coach, or he may or may not coach. And then when it came out, he wasn't coaching. It went down a little bit more.
Yeah, it has to be because I'm the perfect example. That's why I'm not betting the game now. That was the whole reason I was betting the game. It was because he was going to coach the game.
Even at that big number.
Yes. We just talked about all the blowouts in these bowls. Why wouldn't I expect this to be a blowout? I would. Especially the way Nebraska ended their season. I'm like, oh my Lord. If I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm
something to Iowa.
Yeah, I am worried. I mean, you lose Raiola. He leaves the program. Yeah. You can't stop anybody at the end of the season. And Emmett Johnson, your number 1 running back, because Nebraska basically all they could do this year was run the football, and he's not playing.
Is Rule under any hot seat?
No. Nope.
Too big a buyout?
I just think that all this stuff happened so soon.
Yeah.
So
Warren Buffett did write him a check today and pay off the remainder of the contract.
I just ran this into Grok Guys, the AI tool, and asked if Whittingham is coaching, and the answer is no. Kyle Whittingham is not coaching Utah in their last bowl game.
Yeah,
that's pretty good for 30 minutes of it being news.
Yep.
And this is a prime example during the bowl season why it is really, really impossible, and it's a major no-no, in my opinion, to wager on games week or 2 weeks down the road when you don't know what's going to happen in these games. You don't know who's coaching them. You don't know which players are opting out, because coaches and players don't change their minds right away. They wait until like a few days before the game. So
unless you're UConn, okay, and their laundry list, the guy who wrote our newsletter for us we had him on here, Dave Lamont, remember?
Yeah.
And he had one of the great lines that he wrote this year is that UConn's list of players and coaches that will be out is longer than the Epstein files.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
By the way, I also have to wonder with Whittingham, considering the Michigan job was open for like 2 months or whatever it was, if there weren't some informal
no, it wasn't open that long.
When did they?
No, it's only been open for like 2 weeks.
A few weeks. I'm just wondering if there had to be some discussions there.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's that Army Utah game. So just so everybody knows who doesn't know, so you lose the coach, you lose the quarterback, you lose the top running back, you lose your top receiver, you lose your number 2 tackler, you lose your one of your top cornerbacks. I mean, and even losing Jim Mora would have been pretty big, just
devastating, and they're down to a 4-string quarterback now.
That's why the game open 3 is currently sitting at 8.
Yeah, and it opened 3 UConn.
Yeah, 3 UConn.
Yes.
I didn't see that. I'm sure.
We have 3 UConn.
So that's just and then of course you've got this military bowl deal that you had in the guide, Mark, regarding how good they are as a favorite. And
the military teams,
I'd be all over Army and Navy. I mean, since no Sorsby for Cincinnati, and Navy's had a great season.
Yeah, the military teams are spectacular in bowl games when they're favored, and we know their work ethic. We know they're coming to play. But the problem to me in both games is you're kind of coming up on the short end of the number. You're paying a tax, if you will, for everything that's going on. if you want to bet these two teams, not because of their being military teams, but because of what's going on with their opponents is really what it is.
Well, Greg is absolutely right, and this is something that can't be emphasized enough about betting too far in advance when these numbers come out, especially in these days of NIL. I keep saying again that there should be a moratorium on NIL announcements between the end of the regular season and the end of the bowl season. If a guy doesn't want to play, you can just say he's opted out. They don't have to give the reason or anything, and or maybe there can be some sort of restriction put in there as far as doing that. I'm not sure legally that can be done, but it is important. It's always been important because you never knew. The thing used to be, Mark, and you remember this, I think Greg as well. The difficulty in playing early is you didn't know the motivation of the teams. Well, now motivation may be a tertiary category compared to coaches moving and players opting out.
Exactly. It's a different world out there, Andy, right now.
Yeah.
No question.
And another game that the spread is just gone nuts, but you go with it is Pitt. I mean, they're a 10-point favorite, which is a big number, but I'd rather take Pitt at 10 with all of these East Carolina defections than where they were at 4 with a healthy group of players coming out for East Carolina. So
quarterback's out, isn't he? He's
quarterback's out. Both coordinators are out.
Yeah.
So they have to have interim coordinators. They lost their starting offensive tackle, and also they lost their number 2 receiver. And Pitt has a couple of losses themselves, including Desmond Reed, who's an NFL player, but it's just way too much for East Carolina. And they are an American team, and as you mentioned, Mark, American teams have not done well so far.
Well, they're better than South American teams, yes.
Wouldn't want to be playing for Venezuela right now.
Right? No, you wouldn't. No. Hey guys, let's take a quick spin if we can through the college playoff games this week.
Sure.
I don't want to belabor too much of a point, but I'm going to get your thoughts here before we wrap things up here. And I'm going to throw this at you, Andy. The first one, the Cotton Bowl, Miami of Florida, Ohio State. Is there a chip on Ohio State's shoulder because they're coming into this game in the condition that they're in? Or is Miami of Florida just riding a wave coming into the football game? What's your take?
Well, Ohio State's played in the more difficult conference, the SEC. I run numbers on the game, and I actually have Ohio State winning, but I have it a 6-point game. So getting points would have me lean towards Miami. I don't know how you could be terribly impressed with either Miami or Texas A&M, considering the conditions that that game was played in with all the wind and everything. And I feel bad for the kid who hit the goalpost for that $1 million kick, but that just showed how bad in the pregame show how bad those wind conditions were throughout that game. Both teams are really solid on defense. I might look under in that game rather than take a side, but right now everyone's been downing Miami all year. I can understand it. It's tough to repeat. Ohio State's the only team that can repeat, but they don't have to repeat by winning this game. They still have a couple of games ahead of them that they would have to play. So not sure I'll do anything. I'm leaning more to the under than I am to the side, but the side that I would prefer would be Miami.
Greg, how do you see it shaking up?
Well, I said it last time before the Miami Texas A&M game that I was going to go with the winner as long as I felt that I was impressed enough by the winner, and I'm going to stick with that. I'm taking Miami, and I'm going to really – I think when it's all said and done, when we look at who's going to win the championship this year, it's going to be the team who plays the best defense. And it's not the old adage, oh, defense wins championships. It's not what I'm saying. That's everybody knows that. It's that I just think this year there's so many flawed teams. We saw it in the Big Ten championship game. We saw it in the SEC championship game. It wasn't offense that won those games. It was defense. Yep. And so that's what's going to happen in the national championship. That's why I like Miami. That's why I think Miami is a legitimate shot. I love them at 20. There's still 20-1 to win a national championship. So I love that number for a team that has the best defensive line in college football. They proved it last week. We just showed you Ruben Bain. Our lads has him as the number one prospect in the NFL. They've got Mesidor and Moten, 2 other guys who are top NFL prospects. And you saw what they did with Texas A&M. They had 7 sacks, 3 turnovers, and Beck did not have a bad game. Beck had a decent game. He didn't turn the ball over. He threw a touchdown. Fletcher had 170 yards rushing. Andy makes a great point. Even though they only scored 10 points, you have to deal with the weather. That wasn't an easy game to deal with when you're an offensive team in the weather. So and I've been saying this all year about Ohio State, is that the one thing I'm sure about Julian saying is how will he perform when he has to start playing the better teams after a pretty easy schedule this year. Well, we saw it the first time against Indiana. He didn't have a great game. And now he's going up against that Miami front. And I just think that Miami is probably not even probably. I just think they're the by far the best long shot team right now in the playoffs.
How much of a difference will it make with Ryan Day calling the plays in this game?
Well, I mean, Hartline. I didn't hear Hartline was leaving.
I don't know if he's leaving.
I just heard Ryan Day.
I just heard that Ryan Day was taking over play calling.
Is that what he decided? Okay, then I don't think it matters. No. But that is interesting that you bring that up, because I would rather side with the teams that don't have any of these distractions, even if it's just a coordinator, like you just said, Andy, a coordinator leaving like Hartline, even though he's going to be there to coach. There are some teams that are still, and if you look at it, those teams would be Miami, Georgia, Indiana, and Texas Tech. Those are the teams that have no distractions from any coaches, top coaches leaving. Every other team on the other four teams have them. Ohio State has Hartline. Oregon, both coordinators are going to be head coaches next year, so they're going to be leaving. There's got to be some distractions there. And then the same thing, of course, with Alabama, with everything that's gone on with them, with Kalen DeBoer. That's been one big distraction over the last month or.
Well,
by the way, I guess so, it's because
so I might go too. Is stick with the teams that don't have distractions.
Yeah, I think Hartline.
Hartline is coaching
South Florida head coach.
Yep. So, but look, that makes sense for Ryan Day. Hey, even if Brian Hartline's staying, you might as well do it, because and that's proof right there, by the way, that Day knows it's a distraction. So. Yeah. Like I said, that's why with Oregon, both coordinators will be head coaches, which means in the last couple of weeks, they haven't been hanging around the Oregon complex all the time. They've been putting their coaching staffs together. Yeah. They've been recruiting. They've been doing this outside of Oregon. So that has to matter.
Well, the key number in this game, guys, at least looking through the midweek here, is 8.1. And what does 8.1 represent? It represents the amount of points that Miami has allowed in their last 5 games. This defense is really stiffened up.
Yep. Sure.
But 8.1 is also the amount of points Ohio State has allowed all season long. Number 1 scoring defense. You
think it's an underplay then?
I think it's a dead nuts under, Andy.
That's why I laid to that one more than a side.
Yes, I agree with Andy. I agree with that observation 100%. Just I'll throw this out there though, but defending national champions who come in off of a loss have fared really, really well in the playoffs. That would come to the support of the Ohio State Buckeyes in this particular football game. I'm just going to say that because in my mind, we're going to be talking about Ohio State again next week. That's my own thought. I've never been a Mario Cristobal fan.
That's not an opinion on who's going to cover the spread. It's just who's going to win the game for next week.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly. Orange Bowl time, guys, down here in Miami. This is going to be, I think, the game of the weekend, at least one I think everybody will want to watch. Oregon and Texas Tech going toe-to-toe, head-to-head with each other here. Greg, what do you think here? Texas Tech, are they for real or not? All I know is this football team is 11-1 straight up and against the spread. Pretty strong numbers for Texas Tech.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the number. Cause I am going to do a playoff preview video on Monday, and I was going to refine this. But I remember that even though they haven't won every game, like you said, they've won 11 out of 12. I think the number's 21, and what that is that what was the Big 12 championship game margin of victory
in the Big 12 game?
It wasn't very
34-7.
The regular
okay.
Season. Very close to the regular season meeting.
So I think the number's 21, and that number means that every win by Texas Tech this year was by 21 or more. And I know they haven't played the schedule that some of these other teams have played, but when you bury your teams that you play, that does say something. And they have pro prospects on that defense as well. They've got maybe the best linebacker. I think he's I think he won the award, the Nagurski, I believe, the linebacker for Texas Tech. They've got a couple of defensive linemen that are top pro prospects. So not only, do they have a veteran quarterback, but they have a really good defense. And Oregon still, in my opinion, just, there's still a lot of guys they're counting on that are young guys. Quarterback's young, running back, receiver. And at some point, I think that'll come back and hurt them. And I'm gonna go right here. Texas Tech getting 3 points, being the dog. I think they'll use that well. So yeah, I'm going to ride the Red Raiders, and I said it last week. I think the Red Raiders are a national championship caliber team, and I guess we'll find out in this game, because this is the game that this is the thing. If you like Texas Tech or not, it's about this one game. Because if Texas Tech can beat Oregon and do it in a way where they look like they can hang with the Oregons of the world, they can hang with the Ohio States and Indianas of the world, then you've got the answer right there in this one game. You don't have to talk about it anymore.
Andy, is Texas Tech the saving grace for the Big 12 this football season?
Yeah, I am concerned about the quality of teams that they have faced compared to the quality of teams that Oregon has faced. They, obviously Tech did great things in blowing out their opponents, but the one thing that they haven't had that at least Oregon has had. Oregon's been tested in a few games this year. Of course, they lost that home game to Indiana after that long home unbeaten streak, but they were also tested in some of the other games that they managed to win. And I wonder if this game gets close late, especially given Oregon's experience, being in the playoffs last year and not making it into the next round. If that experience, even though there are a lot of young players on that team, if that experience might not be an advantage that they have. I've liked this Texas Tech team all year. I did not want this to be the matchup because I was looking to play on both of these teams. It's not quite a pick'em game. I think it opened a lot lower. I think Oregon may have opened 1 in this game. So I'm leaning Oregon, but I'm not all that comfortable. I know that both the teams have had a lot of good defense, but they've also had a lot of good offense. And I might take a look at another total going over in this one. What's the total in this one? 52.5.
Yeah.
Considering that both of these teams also have big playability, we might see this one. We might see this one in the high 50s.
And Dante Moore is the one kid that he's the only kid that has a chance to compete with Mendoza in this draft if he decides to come out. Yeah. Right now, because he's so young, the feeling is he's going to wait until next year. But let's say he wins a national championship this year at Oregon. He could leave, yeah. And if he leaves,
well, not only that,
he could be the first. He could be the first pick.
With he might be competing with Arch Manning next year for the top draft pick.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
If they win the national championship this year, that might be a deciding factor. Since I believe he still is highly thought of, but I'm not sure that he's being projected to leave.
No, but if they win a national championship, yeah, you would think that would because if he does that, that means he's playing awesome, and he probably moves into the number 1 pick, and then he'll leave.
Yeah. And wouldn't the Jets or the Raiders like to have him?
Huh.
I would rather have Dante Moore than Mendoza myself. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Mendoza. Mendoza has been compared to Jared Goff, and I think that's a fine comparison.
Yeah.
But Jared Goff, again, there's only so much that Jared Goff can do. And I think that's Mendoza. I don't look at Mendoza as a savior type. I just look at him as a very good prospect, but I don't look at him as some sort of elite type.
Well, the one thing that Mendoza did have is that he played with lesser caliber athletes because so many of them came over with Cignetti from James Madison, whereas Oregon and Indiana was not a great recruiting team before Cignetti got there, whereas Oregon's been one of the top recruiting teams for about the last 15 years.
Well, guys, I want to share this stat with you. It's a pretty neat stat that I came across when I was putting the bowl guide together as far as Texas Tech is concerned. And we all know how good their offense is, and their defense is really every bit and just as good as their offense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 opponents they've held to season low points. They've held 7 opponents to season low yards. But what was impressive to me about Texas Tech is after the BYU game, the impressive win they had over BYU in the Big 12 championship game, they've had 139 points they've scored this year off of opponents' turnovers. They had last week against BYU, 17 of their points came against turnovers. Now, I'm not saying that Oregon's is a turnover-prone football team, but that's one of the ways Texas Tech piles on their points in football games that people don't realize. And sometimes if they're pick sixes, they're not showing up in the yards here as well. I think this is going to be one heck of a football game, but I'm with Greg in this football game. I think Texas Tech is going to prove to the world that the Big 12 is for real, and they themselves are for real. They haven't really made a mistake this year. That they had the one loss, and that was without Morton, their quarterback. He didn't even play. So every game they played with him, they're 11-0 straight up and against the spread this football season. That's a pretty strong statement there as well. So put me down for Texas Tech for my side in that particular football game. Let's move on and keep the ball rolling here if we can. Move on to the next game on tap in our playoff preview here. Indiana, Alabama. And Indiana, to me, is a little bit like Texas Tech and, how many points they could quickly put on the scoreboard. But more importantly, Indiana's defense is ferocious. And I don't know if I had shared this with you guys before in the past or not, but a good friend of mine, he's in the Touch Football Hall of Fame. Did I share this with you guys? You got to remind me.
I don't recall. Maybe
well, he's in the Touch Football Hall of Fame. And so when he watches football games, he watches them really from a quarterback's approach and aspect. And I said to him, I says, his name is TJ. I says, TJ, how does Indiana hold all these teams to so little points, to so few points? Where does this defense all of a sudden come into play? And he said, well, what they do is they play an umbrella zone defense. And I said, well, what's an umbrella zone defense? He says, what they do is they drop their two safeties back and the linebackers fill in for them there. So they're putting an umbrella around the defense. There are going to be no big plays against this football defense.
They're giving up yards, but not touchdowns.
Exactly.
They're willing to do that.
Yes, they will not give up touchdowns. Exactly right. And that's been the strength of this Indiana football team. Greg, what do you see happening here in this contest? I think it's going to be one heck of a game again here. Indiana, Alabama. Is Alabama for real? Or better yet, is Indiana for real?
Yeah, that's what we'll find out. I look, in my opinion, if Indiana does not cover this game, if they don't end this game going into the fourth quarter, they are not for real. Because Alabama they're not good.
They're not Alabama. They're not Alabama that they've been.
I think Oklahoma, if Oklahoma would have held on, they had the 17-0 lead. If they would have kept playing like that the rest of the game, that would have been a really good matchup, in my opinion, with Indiana. I give Alabama no chance unless Indiana, like I just said, unless they're not as good as their number one seeding. Look, and the thing is, we don't know because they just haven't played a tough enough schedule, but they did come through when they had to at Oregon. They did beat Ohio State, and they've proven it. And that's why it's good enough for me against Alabama. I mean, come on. You can't beat Alabama by a touchdown? So I have no problem giving up 6 points in this game. The one thing to keep in mind, though, maybe it doesn't hurt them here, but it could hurt them next week or the week after that, is they did lose their top edge rushers. They lost their top edge rusher in mid-October. This kid by the name of Kellen Wyatt, he goes down. So Stephen Daly, who was a transfer, stepped up, and he became their best edge rusher, had 19 tackles for loss this year, and he gets hurt in the Ohio State game on a high five celebration. He's out. So you now have two of your top edge rushers out for the season. And again, I don't think it'll hurt him against Alabama, but I think it might hurt him after that game. And remember, Alabama can't run the ball, so they're a one-trick pony, and that makes it pretty easy for really good defenses like Indiana.
Andy, your thoughts?
Okay, let me just go back to that Oregon-Texas Tech game because you mentioned turnovers and everything. Oregon overall, and I only in these numbers, I only use games against FBS opponents. I don't do FCS large. Oregon ranked 9th in offense, total offense, 2nd in the nation in total defense. They also ranked 8th in points allowed and 11th in points scored. Turnovers, they were 11th in the nation. They had just 9 turnovers in their games this year. That's a 0.8 per game. So what that might suggest is that Texas Tech might not be able to benefit from the turnovers that they've been able to benefit from against other opponents. As far as Alabama, Indiana, I think Greg said it perfectly. I have Indiana, almost by every measure, I have Indiana at least a 10-point favorite.
Well, it's hard to disagree with Indiana, guys, because they've, next to Texas Tech, they've been the 2 most impressive teams to me, in my eyes, this college football season here. My biggest concern is everybody is overlooking Kalen DeBoer here, and he's a great coach as an underdog. We've seen that. We've seen it against Oklahoma, and the biggest concern for me is Alabama.
We saw it this year against Georgia, didn't we? Also,
exactly. In
the regular season. In
the regular season, right? What concerns me the most here is Greg says he's right 100%. They don't have a running game. Well, their rush defense is rather soft by Alabama standards as well. They don't stop the run like they used to. That was Nick Saban's forte. Be able to stop the rush and control the line of scrimmage. And Alabama doesn't do a lot of that this year, and that's kind of a reason they've been bobbing back and forth. But in my heart of hearts, I cannot lay a touchdown into Alabama. I just can't do it. Because when I log this and I see Alabama loses the game but covers the spread, I'll say, there you go. There's that dog barking again for Alabama. So I don't have a strong conviction side to the football game.
When was the last time Alabama was this big a favorite? Postseason, regular season, whatever.
You mean a dog?
Gotta be. Big a dog, 7 points in that vicinity.
Well, that's
probably about 12, 15 years.
Let me look real. I'm looking in the stat and logbook here real quick, Andy, as we're speaking here. And I'm not seeing they took 6 against Georgia in 2021 in the playoffs.
Won that game?
Won the whole game, yeah. Yeah, they won the whole game. And before that, I can go back 10 years looking at the stat and logbook. They were just nothing but chalk back in the day.
The only concern I would have here is that as much as I like DeBoer, he's no Nick Saban.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, in terms of recruiting, because now he's got 2 recruiting classes there.
Exactly.
Which may explain why they don't have a running game this year.
Well, Nick Saban, if he was still coaching the last 2 years, those 2 years Nick Saban wouldn't be anywhere near as good as the previous Nick Saban either. And that's why Nick Saban left. He was smart. He knew what was going to happen to all his recruiting edge was going to disappear.
Has he said that, or is that what we're speculating?
Oh no, it was obvious. That's why we're speculating, but that's why he left. That's why all these coaches left.
Yeah,
that's why Coach Krzyzewski decided to retire early. That's why a lot of these older coaches in college basketball and college football the last few years, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this NIL thing.
They took away what they do best. That's recruiting, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, guys, next game, we're going to take a look at.
I'm going to have to head out in about 15 minutes, by the way.
Okay, all right. We'll wrap it up with the Sugar Bowl here, Andy, okay? Right, in fact, I'm going to hand it off to you, Georgia and Ole Miss, a rematch. You don't find many conference rematches in bowl games, but it came up here because it's a playoff. And we are speaking about some revenge here in this football contest to Ole Miss. And I can tell you this, that when you do have matchups of conference teams in bowl games, the avenging team has been dynamite, just absolute dynamite. Last 7 times, they've won the money all 7 times. How do you see this one shaking out here, Andy? Ole Miss or Georgia?
Well, remember, they played a great game, and Ole Miss had an opportunity. They were leading throughout a good part of that game. They had a chance to win. What I like about, I like Ole Miss in this game, and I wouldn't be shocked by the upset. I was very impressed considering all the chaos that was going around the program. There were 2 things. How were they going to react to the chaos in the game against Tulane? And even without the chaos, would they have been looking ahead to a possible matchup against Georgia, knowing what the bracket was like? I had to be impressed on both accounts. They took it to Tulane early and often. Obviously, there was no letdown. There was no negativity from the coaching situation. They beat a team by almost the same score that they did the first time. What was this one? 41-10 versus 45-10, something like that.
Yep.
Dominated that game. Georgia, as well as they have played, they struggled with Ole Miss, and I think Ole Miss now is playing with that chip for the coaching, the Benedict Arnold situation with Lane Kiffin. I think any negative effect we might have seen would have been in that game against Tulane. In other words, maybe they would have struggled against Tulane a little bit, and maybe they would have won the game 35-23, something like that, and didn't break it open until the fourth quarter. I'm going to have a bit of the money line on Ole Miss, but I'm certainly taking the points.
I'm with you, Andy, and Andy. Greg, how's your look in this football game?
Yeah, I'll make it a threesome there.
Good.
This was a tough one though for me because I respect Kirby Smart as a coach. He proved that in the SEC championship game, just hammering Alabama. And Georgia is playing their best football of the year, so that does concern me. But like you said, the rematch thing that comes into play. And anytime I'm in a situation where I'm really not sure which way to go, I'm kind of conflicted. There's things I like about both teams. Well, I 90% of the time, maybe even higher, I go with the dog because why not? If I'm that conflicted in the game, I might as well take the dog. And sometimes I'm just jumping on a money line too. Just like Andy said, at 2-1 on the money line, why not? I mean, we talked about this before the playoffs began, that really nobody had any idea how Ole Miss would react. And now that they did react well, there's that chance that this could be just more than beating Georgia too. So they've got the talent. We knew that. And they're still getting good odds, just like Miami. They're 25-1 to win the championship, even after winning in their first round matchup. So I think just you guys have said it. We know Georgia can win the game, but why not take the dog in this one?
Well, I'm with you. Like you said, Greg, we're going to go 3 for 3 on this. First of all, you've got Georgia off an Alabama win. That's always a letdown for Georgia in situations like that. Just the intense rivalry that it ends up having to be. In fact, in the bowl guide, we called it out. They're 2-6 to the spread when favored after beating Alabama. 0-5 if they have an 800 or better win percentage. But this is ironic, or not ironic, a little bit odd in the sense that Ole Miss has been a dog now 2 times in the last 2 years. They've both been to Georgia, and now they're going to be a dog for the 3rd time, all to Georgia. They lost last year, didn't cover. The year before, they won the whole game straight up. And I became an Ole Miss believer when they did to Tulane what they did. I was really thoroughly impressed because I thought Tulane was going to come and play their hearts out with John Sumrall sticking around. And Ole Miss may be a little bit despondent about the Lane Kiffin stuff. And Andy, I love that Benedict Arnold tag you put on him. I'm going to remember that. We're going to start referring to him as Benedict Arnold. But I'm with you guys. I'm with Ole Miss in this football contest here. There's a lot of points, and Southeast Conference dogs as a whole have been very, very good this year, especially in conference play. And this is maybe not technically a conference game, but they are 2 conference opponents playing here. So make it 3 for 3 for me. Put me down for Ole Miss as well in the football game.
And there are a couple of injuries of concern on Georgia. On the defensive side, their linebacker, Gabe Harris, it doesn't look good for him to play. He's dealing with turf toe. And just taking a quote from Kirby Smart of what he feels about Gabe Harris, he calls him a game wrecker, a physical, tough, relentless player for them. And he looks like he's not playing in this game against Ole Miss. And their starting center, Drew Bobo, will be out in the game as well, Georgia. So they have a couple of injuries. I don't see any major injuries on Ole Miss's side as well. And one last tidbit, just to take a look at what happened in last year's first expanded playoff. All 4 teams that had the bye last year lost.
Wow.
So,
oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember putting that in the preview guide. Yes, all
the one. I was going to say the
lost.
one concern I have, and I don't know if it'll come into play because Mississippi hasn't shown that vulnerability, is now, and again, it's another big game, but this is a bigger game. How will Georgia's experience perhaps be an advantage for the Bulldogs if this is a close game late?
Yeah, probably a lot, because I'd probably be right there with that point, Andy. That's actually what killed Ole Miss in the first meeting. Yeah, they were winning the whole game. They were right there. They were going neck and neck with Georgia, and then all of a sudden, Georgia scores a touchdown, like I think late third quarter to take the lead, and that was it. Ole Miss couldn't keep up with them.
Greg, we know about Gunner.
Georgia's been there and done that. That's the concern.
Yep.
We know about Gunner Stockton. Tell me a little bit about Chambliss, the Ole Miss quarterback. Is he as good as the team is purported to be? He looked pretty sharp in that Tulane game.
Yeah, he's a talented kid. And the funny part about it is let's keep in mind that he did not start the season as the starter. They went with this freshman quarterback. I think it was a redshirt freshman, Austin Simmons. And he did not play particularly well in his first game. Went out there in his second game, and then he got hurt. And there comes Chambliss. And as soon as Chambliss came in, he did not look rusty. He right off the bat looked like the real deal, and Kiffin decided to stick with him. And the funny thing is that Chambliss was the quarterback on the Ferris State championship team that just won Division II championship. And Ferris State's I think won 4 out of 6 Division II championships or something like that. You might have been, wrote about that in the coffee club, or had one of you guys write about that in the coffee club. They're like a powerhouse, and Chambliss was a part of that last year, and he leaves, and yet Ferris State still wins a championship without Chambliss. That shows you how powerful that team is in that division. But yeah, Chambliss, it was a big surprise that Chambliss at that level can go from that level to the SEC and play. I mean, right off the bat, he looked like he was the real deal. And
how would you compare what we've seen from Chambliss to the former Ole Miss quarterback, Jackson Dart?
Well, the thing with Dart that hurt him was always the big games. Anytime there was a big game, he did. That's why there was, the knock on Lane Kiffin was the same thing. And Dart was a part of that. So, we know Dart is a pro prospect, first round draft pick caliber kid. Chambliss is not that. Chambliss is more of a fantastic college quarterback. So I think he's in the perfect position because, again, he's an underdog. And I think that's why Ole Miss is in a much better position this year, because they're the underdog. Nobody's counting on them.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe Lane Kiffin did Ole Miss fans a favor because he knew that they'd have to win some big games to win a national championship.
Well, and there was it used to be the pressure on Lane Kiffin, and they were respected and they were favorites even in some of these types of big games. But now they're like the dog, and nobody respects them, and they're not supposed to win. So yeah, this might actually be a better situation for the Rebels.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm going to put the wraps in the show here. Another good conversation, a great talk. It's if they hadn't invented Barstool Sports, we would have taken that name, because our conversations are all Barstool conversations. Yeah. Really, really good. I'm going to wish everybody out there a very, very safe, happy New Year's until we come back here on our ATS podcast show next week. Andy, I hope you stay safe, stay home on New Year's Eve. Don't be going out with the crowd.
That's my MO for the last. The only time I would really go out would be when I was the old Stardust line, and that was a Saturday night, and it was already on the strip at the Stardust. But other than that, I stay local, and I'm not in bed by 8 o'clock, but I'm home from dinner by 8 o'clock.
Greg, same to you. Are you going out on New Year's Eve?
No, I have. It's been I don't even know how long in counting that I've decided to skip the roads. Statistically speaking, it's not a good idea to drive on New Year's Eve.
Amateurs night.
Yeah. So alcohol and amateurs night. Absolutely. So yeah. I'll break that string at some point, but not this year.
Well, I haven't had a drink, guys, in like 36 years, so I'm not going to be breaking that string anytime soon, I can assure you. Nice job on the graphics, Greg. I like what we're seeing here. Some good stuff here. I'm sure the viewers out there like it as well. So until next week, once again, this is Mark Lawrence reminding you to always remember to bet with your head, not over it. And good luck as always. Good.